Hello, I am Ilona and I am Latvian and I speak one of the Baltic languages, which is Indo-European language. Indo-European languages is that's really interesting topic and especially Proto-Indo-European. But there were people in the area, in the Baltic area, around the Baltic Sea, who were already here. Hunter-gatherers who lived in the forest in Northern Europe for thousands of years before Indo-European languages arrived. We don't have their language, but we might have their words hiding somewhere inside this, like Baltic, Finnic, Scandinavian language. What I'm looking for? I'm looking for substrate words, the vocabulary absorbed from earlier populations whose language otherwise disappeared. Yeah. And where is the best place to look for them? I think it's a forest because the forest, yeah, it was really everything to these people. It was their home, their food, medicine, sacred space. Basically, it was all around. I think this is the best place, at least to begin, for searching for these words. In this video, I will look at three names across Latvian, Lithuanian, Estonian, Finnish, and Russian. Primarily, maybe compare it to Scandinavian languages. I will ask this one simple question about each three. Does this name have a clear Indo-European explanation, or is it something older? The trees I will discuss in this video: pine, spruce, birch, alder, aspen, rowan. And first I will look at conifer trees, pine and spruce. These two look very inconsistent between all of these language groups, which could mean that there were already different language groups in the area before Indo-Europeans arrived. And what I think possibly happened, why Scandinavian names are different. First of all, it's not just Scandinavian, but first of all, because Indo-Europeans most likely split somewhere before, so one part moved somewhere maybe through Denmark to Scandinavia, another part went more to east side of the Baltic Sea. And where it could happen, maybe around Poland and Germany. And it is possible that there were no many conifer trees, or not as many, in the area. And maybe in Scandinavia, when they reached it, there were also far less people, like the native people, like these hunter-gatherer people who lived there, and they maybe didn't really meet anyone, or not often enough, so they had to invent their own names for these trees. And at first, for me, how it looked like, that these are very descriptive names for a pine, tall. Yeah, it is tall. And green looks, yeah, green. It's all year green tree. But when I looked a little bit more, yes, it's not always that simple. And apparently, the meaning of the tall is something absolutely else, like a young pine or fir tree. And the gran comes from Proto-Germanic, again, something else. You have to be very careful when looking at words which resemble you something else in other languages, and it is really very easy to forget about that sometimes, yeah. Icelandic, yeah, I don't know. It looks like fear. Why I included Icelandic only because it's again most conservative, like this Scandinavian, Nordic, Germanic language. So yeah, Latvian period and Lithuanian pushes look like different words. Yes, they both start with P, but starting with the same letter means actually, yeah, nothing on its own. The thing is that sometimes when you take one word from other language, in this case from possible substrate languages, you can, of course, change part of it to be it more naturally usable in your own language in order to follow your language's grammatic rules. And I think the possibility that the grammar between the Indo-European languages and this, like, let's call them native languages, yes, at the time, the grammar was different between these languages. Yes, so Lithuanian push is still is most likely connected to the Latin pinus, even if it doesn't look like that. Through this root, meaning resin or pine. Latvian period is different. No convincing Indo-European etymology exists for it. Because we could say everything comes from Proto-Indo-European and they were shifting sounds all over the place. Not sure if that is what really happened, especially if we know that Baltic languages are considered the most conservative living uh, in the European languages. So they changed the least from the original. Russian thus now looks like substrate candidate because this word is used only in just a few Slavic languages, actually. Yes, not even all of them. Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, and Belarusian. And there is no convincing Slavic etymology either. About spruce, egle in Latvian looks like, yes, same, basically, almost the same in Lithuanian. It looks like it is related to yel, in Russian, and okay, this video looks like will be already too long. I don't think I will manage to include all the trees. Most likely, I will just do these two, and we'll have to continue in another video the next four. Yes, what is interesting about the spruce? Maybe this is a crazy idea, but I was thinking about it. Okay. Uh, in Bulgarian, for example, I don't know also how to pronounce it correctly, like Ella something, which is similar to Russian. But what is interesting, in Greek, it is, well, elato, let's say. Elato looks like some kind of connection here. And it would be weird, first of all, to take loan word and add letter G in the middle. If the Baltic egg were borrowed from Greek, yes, from Greek elato. Other way around, I can see it more realistic that the word they dropped the letter G, like G. There is a possibility that Baltic spruces, which were growing, I I believe, in abundance there in the north, and were maybe and still are probably much taller and bigger, and you can find them much more like could be considered like more useful than spruces growing in the Balkan area. And it is possible that the trees were actually transported from the Baltic area to the Balkan area, like traded. Similar, how I don't know, maybe amber was traded different way, not transported literally in the water. But we know that these things happened. People were exchanging stuff between each other. And there is, for example, this town in Latvia which is called Koknese, which literally translates as something tree wood terrier. So, and word koks for a tree in Latvian, that's another story. Well, there is no story maybe, but but it's an interesting word because I found it only in Latvian. So this kind of trade, yes, did happen. Trees were transported with rivers, even quite recently. Actually, this is a known thing. This happened. So we could sometimes maybe look from the different side, and not always everything is around Greece, and not from Greek centric or Indo-European centric perspective. The full picture for spruce across all Finnic languages is very consistent. Every single one uses this like kuz root going back to Proto-Uralic. And it makes sense because they come from different landscape compared to Indo-European people, and Uralic people do tend to live more closer to north, so most likely they encountered these trees quite a lot. For pine, the situation is more interesting. Finnish has two words like this petaya, old Uralic root shared with Livonian piedak, and manti apparently is a Baltic borrowing from a word manta, which is apparently a steering stick. I even had no idea. For me, as a Latvian, manta means something else. But in Lithuanian, they still have something similar for a steering thing. Also, what looks interesting for me is that Livonian Piedag and Pried actually could be related. What happened here looks weird. Finns took a loan word from Baltic and called it Manti, something like that. But Latvians took the loan word for a pine from these Uralic languages and called it Priede. Or what was happening? Why all these words actually start with P in all these languages? We have this pine tree starting with the letter P. Interesting. Yes, I think yes, this will be too much. And just two trees. The more you look into this stuff, the more information you find, and it feels like it never stops. It never stops. But okay, I will have to stop here for this particular video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.